Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, I have a couple of more incredibly odd stories, folks. One, a Bigfoot like any was seen in New Orleans, and Dan Aykroyd's encounter with MIB. Let's get into the first of two articles today, folks, with this first story. Gorilla-faced creature encountered on a nature trail south of New Orleans, and hear about this bizarre variant of the Bigfoot, folks. Let's get into it now. A late evening dog walk along a quiet nature trail south of New Orleans took a sudden, disturbing turn when an anonymous witness came face-to-face with a large, unknown creature. What began as a routine walk quickly escalated into a close-range encounter marked by fear, odor, and astonishing speed. The details raise questions that linger long after the moment passed. The following encounter occurred during the first week of December 2012. I walked my dog every day on a nature trail located south of New Orleans. I would like to remain anonymous. One night, around 7 in the evening, I was walking my dog when we came around a turn in the trail. She suddenly began growling, which is extremely unusual for her. I turned on my flashlight to see what had her so upset. About 20 to 30 feet away, something large and dark brown was digging inside one of the trash cans. These trash cans are mounted above ground, roughly 4.5 feet high and wide enough that I could fit my entire body inside. I am 6 foot 1 inch tall and weigh about 260 pounds. This thing was approximately my height, possibly slightly taller, but much wider. Its head and part of its shoulders were inside the trash can. When my dog barked, the creature turned and looked directly at us. Its face was what I can only describe as gorilla-like. The eyes reflected a bright red shine in my Maglite flashlight. The smell was overwhelming, similar to stink bugs mixed with rotten eggs. When it decided to leave, the speed was unbelievable. There was no way a person in a suit could move like that. One moment it was there, and the next it was gone. I cannot even begin to estimate how fast it moved. That alone is evidence in the story that this guy is telling the truth, not just because of how honest the witness here sounds, folks, but how he describes it as well and what this entity is capable of. So very interesting if all of this is true, folks. But let's read on. I was shaken badly at that point. I was carrying my pistol and fired 2 rounds into the ground, not at the creature, but just to make noise because I was terrified. I have never heard of anyone around here reporting something like this. I am from a small town, and if others have seen something similar, they probably keep quiet to avoid being ridiculed or labeled crazy. The next day, I returned to the location. The trash bag had clearly been disturbed. Inside the can were Popeyes, biscuits, and other fast food items. I considered putting more food in the trash cans and returning with a friend to see if I could get evidence. I needed to understand what I saw, but I never did. Sounds like he was afraid that if he indeed went ahead and put more food into that trash can, or should I say dumpster, folks, because it sounds like that's exactly what this animal was digging through, but that's just me guessing here, folks. If he did indeed do that, he'd have to face the fact that indeed what he saw was real, folks. But that's just me and stuff like that. Either way, it's too bad that he didn't. Maybe we could have actually gotten real evidence of a cryptid for once. But there's a little more to the article, so let's read that now too. This experience was life-changing. I cannot get the face or the broad shoulders of this thing out of my mind. I believe I saw a Bigfoot-type creature, although television descriptions often claim they are 8 or 9 feet tall. This one was closer to my height, but built extremely wide, like a linebacker. If you have heard of similar reports from southern Louisiana, I would appreciate hearing about them. I am aware of stories about the Honey Island swamp monster near Slidell, but this encounter occurred in a different area, S. Now, what did S actually encounter? Could it have been maybe a variant on maybe Bigfoot or maybe even the devil monkey? But the most likely suspect, I think, is perhaps the skunk ape, which is a Bigfoot variant from Florida, and Louisiana isn't that far from that state, folks, and this is the kind of area I could imagine a skunk ape basically living in. So, what do you make of that, folks? Do you think it was Bigfoot, or do you think it could be something along the lines of the skunk ape that a lot of the times has been described as basically shorter than the classic Bigfoot height that most people say is around 7 to 8 feet tall? At least that's what I've heard about, folks. So I think that's a good candidate. But let's move on to the next article now. Dan Aykroyd's Men in Black encounter on 42nd Street, a vanishing black sedan in New York City. Let's hear about this encounter, how this movie star saw the Men in Black. In January 2002, amid the abrupt collapse of a television project devoted to UFO research, an unsettling incident unfolded on a busy Manhattan street. What veteran actor and investigator Dan Aykroyd described was brief, precise, and deeply anomalous. The timing, location, and aftermath raise a persistent question that has followed Men in Black encounters for decades. Let's read the actual story now. The account was shared during the documentary Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs and a conversation with filmmakers David Sharada. Aykroyd explained that in late 2001 and early 2002, he was filming Out There, a television series sold to the Sci-Fi Channel. The program featured extended interviews with leading figures in UFO and paranormal research, including crop circle investigators, cattle mutilation experts, and well-known abductee cases. On the day of the incident, Aykroyd was outside the studio on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue in New York City, unaware that the show had just been canceled. While standing on the sidewalk and smoking a cigarette, his phone rang. The call was from Britney Spears, inviting him to appear with her on Saturday Night Live, an episode that would air shortly afterward. As he spoke on the phone, Aykroyd glanced across the street and noticed a black Ford sedan parked nearby. The vehicle immediately struck him as unusual. The license plate was indistinct, almost blurred, and the car looked like an unmarked police vehicle. Two men were inside. A third, described as very tall and imposing, exited the rear seat and stood in the street, fixing Aykroyd with what he described as a hostile, disapproving stare. And this is the point where even I would say this is odd, folks. Were these guys basically just actors? Or maybe, prankers, folks? The only reason I can think of why these men would appear to someone like Dan Aykroyd was maybe they were indeed the genuine article here, real Men in Black, and they were disapproving of him basically being involved with the UFO question. Otherwise, folks, I would have thought maybe they were pranksters here and stuff like that. I still kind of do think that it's possible, but this is odd that this would happen, folks. You think that basically something like this would have been orchestrated by someone like Britney Spears, perhaps working with Saturday Night Live to pull a joke on Dan Aykroyd here. But other words, if not, this is terrifying because these entities knew exactly where he was. But there's more to the story, folks, so let's read further. Aykroyd turned his head briefly back toward the phone conversation. When he looked again, no more than a half a second later, the black sedan was gone. The disappearance defied normal traffic behavior. There was no sound of acceleration. No visible turn, and no opportunity for the car to make a U-turn or blend into traffic. On a crowded avenue like 42nd Street, Aykroyd emphasized that such a maneuver would have been obvious. He scanned the area repeatedly. The vehicle had simply vanished. Approximately 2 hours later, Aykroyd and the production team were formally informed that Out There had been canceled and that none of the recorded episodes would air. The sudden termination, coupled with the earlier street encounter, left a lasting impression. Aykroyd stated clearly that he knew what he had seen. He questioned whether the incident represented a warning, an act of intimidation, or a form of confirmation tied to the subject matter he was exploring. He also noted parallels with accounts involving black helicopters, military-style abductions, and post-encounter debriefings reported by other witnesses. The tapes from the show, he confirmed, still exist and were intended for future release. What are we to make of Dan Aykroyd's encounter with the Men in Black here, folks? It's certainly strange and just as mysterious as many other accounts of, people basically meeting the Men in Black, folks. Here, it was clearly maybe all the things Dan Aykroyd was basically saying. He said that he didn't know if it was for intimidation or to kind of confirm that indeed he was on the right track. I would say that the fact that they appeared before him was indeed maybe them trying to basically confirm to him that he was on the right track. But that was the warning here, folks. Yeah, you're right, but clearly we exist as well. And if you continue, we're going to make things very bad for you. So know this. Stop. This is the intimidation factor I get from reading Dan Aykroyd's story here, folks. Indeed, they probably were there to stop him and make sure his show did not air. Now, as for the Bigfoot sighting we just read, indeed, folks, like the Men in Black, these mysterious things happen. Until we get confirmation, we just have to keep searching. But now we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics That Are Bad For You. You can use the YouTube link down below in descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Hit the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications. And please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video. So be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.